Let's talk about three of the biggest mysteries there are. First, why is there anything? Why is there a universe at all? Second, what is this feeling of being aware? And third, what's that deep, quiet sense of peace that seems to be hiding behind everything? We're going to explore a really old idea that's been given a modern scientific twist, not as something to believe in, but as something we can actually test.
Okay, so first things first. It all starts with something that's just completely undeniable. I mean, look around. There's a world here, right? A whole universe of stuff, matter, and energy. That's the first great mystery. The simple, mind-blowing fact that something actually exists.
And then you've got the second mystery. This one's happening inside you, right this second. You're aware. You've got that sense of I am. There's this inner world that's feeling and experiencing the outer one. Something is looking out through your eyes.
And finally, there's the third one. It's a little more subtle. But underneath all the noise and the chaos of life, there's often this sense of a fundamental harmony, a quiet background of wholeness, a feeling that at its very core, reality is in balance.
So, it turns out an ancient philosophy already had a map for these three big observations. It gives us a really powerful set of words for them. Three words from Sanskrit: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So let's break down what they actually mean.
First up, you've got Sat. This one's pretty simple. It's all the physical stuff, everything that has mass and energy. Atoms, stars, your own body, the whole shebang. It's the being, the existence part of reality. The source material has a great way of putting it. It's like the clay that everything is made out of.
Next is Chit. That's consciousness. Now this is a really crucial point. This theory doesn't see consciousness as some kind of separate soul that gets dropped into a body. Nope. Instead it says awareness is something that just emerges. When matter, that's Sat, gets organized in a really complex way, like in a brain, it starts to know itself. It just grows naturally out of that complexity.
And the third piece of the puzzle is Ananda. Now this sometimes gets translated as bliss, but it's not really an emotion like happiness. It's more like the fundamental state of balance, of wholeness, that holds everything together. It's the deep, quiet ocean that's always there underneath all the crashing waves of life.
So, how do these three work together? Well, the theory paints a picture of this incredible cosmic dance. It all starts from Ananda, that silent balance. Then, out of that balance, forms start to appear, that's Sat. And then inside some of those really complex forms, awareness pops up, and that's Chit. You see the flow? It goes from peace to being to knowing. Now this all sounds like a really beautiful philosophy, right? But here's where it gets really, really cool. This modern take on it wants to pull these ideas out of the world of belief and see if they can actually hold up as a measurable scientific theory. And this right here is the key difference. The old way, well, it kind of required you to have faith. But this new scientific approach, it asked a totally different question. Can we actually test this? Can we measure it? Can we find evidence for it in the real world? It's not asking for belief, it's practically begging for skepticism. So how in the world do you measure these things? Well, Sat is the easy one. That's just your standard physics and chemistry. For Chit, or awareness, scientists can actually measure how complex the flow of information is in a system, kind of like how all the different parts of a brain are chattering away with each other. And for Ananda, or harmony, they can look for signals of stability and order, what a physicist would call low entropy. Suddenly, they're not just philosophical words anymore, they're actual data points we can look for.
And that brings us to the most exciting part of this whole explainer. I mean, if this is a real theory, we should be able to dream up some experiments to check if it's true, right? Well, the source material lays out 5 really clear ways we could do just that.
For instance, we could measure the information flow in someone's brain to see if it really does map to their feeling of being conscious. We could trace how awareness evolved, from tiny little organisms all the way up to us. We could even analyze what's happening in the brain during a near-death experience, or try to build an AI that's genuinely self-aware, or even look for leftover information traces in a room after someone's left. These are all real, concrete experiments. Okay, it's really important we're clear about what this theory is not. This isn't pseudoscience. It's not trying to prove that ghosts are real or that your personality survives after you die. Not at all. It's a very grounded, very sober proposal that just treats awareness as a natural, physical thing that we can study, just like gravity.
So, with that scientific foundation locked in, we can now use this framework to start thinking about some of life's heaviest questions. We're talking death, ghosts, even God, but from a totally rational, non-mystical point of view.
So what happens when we die, according to this idea? Well, your body, your Sat, it just decomposes. It goes back to nature. And that complex pattern of information that was you, your chit, it just dissolves, kind of like a wave collapsing back into the ocean. The background piece, Ananda, that's always there. But here's the key. Your personal, individual consciousness, it ends.
And this leads to a really powerful way of looking at it. Death isn't just the end. It's not annihilation. It's transformation. All your component parts get recycled. The pattern disappears, but nothing is actually lost from the whole system. You just shift from being an individual wave to being the entire ocean again.
So, what about ghosts? And God? Well, the theory would say that ghosts are probably just tricks of our psychology. Or maybe, at best, some kind of fast-fading energy trace. Definitely not a conscious person hanging around. And God? Well, it's not some person up in the clouds. It's something way bigger. It's the entire universe knowing itself. The complete, unified reality of Sat, Chit, and Ananda all rolled into one.
Okay, so this is a really fascinating way to think about things, but so what? Why does any of this matter? How does looking at the world this way actually change how you live your life, day to day?
Well, it could change everything. First, it tells you that you're not some separate little thing. You're deeply connected to all of existence. It suggests that consciousness, in any form it takes, is incredibly precious. It reframes peace not as something you have to go out and find, but as the background state you can always come home to. And maybe, just maybe, it can help replace that fear of death with a really deep sense of gratitude for the amazing, temporary gift of being alive.
There's a quote from the source that just sums this all up so perfectly. We are those waves. For a little while, we get to rise up, shine, and call ourselves I. And then we just fall back into the sea. Nothing is ever lost.
And when you get right down to it, this framework shows us that science and, let's call it spirituality, they're not enemies, they're partners. The whole point of science is to understand reality. The whole point of life is to experience it. And the whole point of a philosophy like this is to build a bridge that connects those two worlds.
So we end on this. Right now, in you, all three of these things are happening. Your body is the matter. That's Sat. Your mind is the awareness. That's Chit. And somewhere behind all of it is that silent potential for peace, Ananda. You're all three. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?